Hello, it's your girl Onyx, and you are watching The Onyx Effect, and I have Darrell Redmond here with me today.
How y'all doing?
So today, we're going to talk about a lot of things about Darrell. As you know, Darrell is a community activist and advocate, and he does so many things regarding giving back. But a lot of people don't know Darrell's backstory. We grew up together in a little town, or I guess it was a town all in its own, called Linden Oaks. So Darrell, first I want to start off by asking you, who is Darrell Redmond?
Darrell Redmond is a man that has went through certain type of situations and struggles in life that end up making some conscious decisions that weren't right, but through time I have transcended those things and rewrote who actually Darrell Redmond is.
And who is he?
Darrell Redmond is a man who is dedicated to change, dedicated to promoting peace within the community. Darrell Redmond is a mentor. Darrell Redmond is an activist. Darrell Redmond is a father. Darrell Redmond is a brother. He's a son. He's an uncle. And as of today, Darrell Redmond is a free man.
And we are going to get into that. So congratulations on that. The first thing before we go to your backstory, because so many people only know Darrell Redmond as the activist, as the advocate, as somebody that's in the community. They don't know what it took for you to get that type of credibility. But what you just said is today you're a free man. Well, what does that mean?
The reason why I say I'm a free man, because I'm a 43-year-old man, and my whole life I've had one right in the world, which was the right to remain silent. And the reason why I say right to remain silent, it doesn't all entail incarceration. It all entails that I didn't have the freedom of expression, which was the right to vote, which I really know that that's monumental, becoming the age that I am and understanding that as a man with me who's just been released from probation and parole today. I've been on probation or parole since the age of 12. I'm 43. I opened the mailbox today and got a letter that said that I'm a free man. And that's something that I'm gonna take near and dear. That's something that I'm gonna continue to push other people to get, and also to get them to understand that that right to vote is your voice, and let's utilize it together.
So, were you expecting that paper?
No, I was not expecting that paper. I wasn't supposed to get off probation and parole until 2031.
And this is 2021. So you were supposed to have 10 more years of being on probation and parole. So let me ask you this. When you're on probation and parole, for those people that don't know, does that hinder your ability to get certain rights, like getting your right to bear arms back, or do you have to wait till you get off, or how does that work when you're on probation and parole?
Probation and parole restricts you in so many ways. It restricts you from, yes, the right to bear arms. It restricts you from traveling. It restricts you from being able to actually, unless you get a clearance per se from those people in regards to going in certain areas. I know people that are on probation and parole and can't even go see their mother because they have a restriction saying certain things are red zones, which means high crime areas. So that is a incredible barrier for somebody to be released and can't even go see their mother or their aunt or their sister. So being under those things, you are under a constant restriction, which is pretty much being a child again, from them telling you where you can and can't go, how you can and can't move. And with me, as I say, I'm a community activist, and I'm thankful that I had some people in my corner with probation and parole that allowed me to get out and be able to be effective as I can in certain areas, but it's still restricted because some of the calls I got was, can you come to here now and help us in regards to this situation? But under those conditions, you have to apply and ask, can I go? Some people have a 50-mile restriction. Some people have a 100-mile restriction. It depends on what it is. Me, I had a 50-mile restriction. So nowhere out of 50 miles could I go without asking for permission and I had to ask 5 days in advance.
So let's just say you went outside of that radius and you didn't know, and maybe you got pulled over by a police officer. Would that be considered violation of probation?
That would be considered violation of your probation and parole. You will be apprehended, and it's up to the people that does with the parole board that they can give you 1 day, or I know some people that have done it that they could have re-incarcerated me again and released me in 2031.
Wow. For something as minor as that, and it could have been just you didn't even know you were a mile outside of the 50-mile radius.
Exactly. It's a constriction, and to me, I look at it, that's why I have a company name that's called Conglomerating Felons, which is to bring to the forefront with people that have been in my position and been through what I've been through, to collectively get together with people that have been incarcerated, people that have been affected by it, and the people that understand and research it, to give and disperse that information to them, because a lot of people really don't know. A lot of people come home and they're so excited to get home that they put all these papers in front of you, and you're so excited to be free that you don't read it, and you'll sign and you'll get caught in a little small thing that was written in there that can cause you to violate your probation and parole and have you wind it back up in the same situation that you were in.
Wow. And that's something that's very needed, because I do know you, and you have a lot of information, but you put in the work. And we do need someone out there that's not only able to show and teach others how to effectively abide by those rules so that they're not violated over frivolous charges, but there should also be some type of movement where those things aren't even in there. Because I get probation and parole, I get it. I absolutely get it. But to not be able to go outside of a 50-mile radius, depending on where you live, you might not ever be able to leave your city.
And that's another thing that I hope that sooner or later it gets changed and just be an open thing, because it's like they have the choice to restrict you to whatever they want to restrict you from. Somehow, I know they have a thing inside there that, depending on who your probation or parole officer is, that they allow you to go out of there for work or whatever. But it comes times that certain people are under certain guidelines, which they have this gang release thing and different things like that they have with people. But okay, per se, I was a gang member, but yet I have a job that's out of my 50-mile radius that can help me proceed, grow, and produce, and you tell me no. What am I going to do? Be restricted to the area I'm in and continue to do what I know how to do, but yet I had a job opportunity or a career opportunity outside of it, and because that you have the power, you restrict me. I think that needs to be taken away.
It absolutely does, because how am I supposed to grow beyond my circumstance if you won't allow me to go beyond my circumstance?
Exactly.
So if I can't go into a better area, I can't grow into a better area. I'm kind of stuck into the same situation that I'm in. So definitely, we definitely need to do something about that. We're going to get back into the things that we need to do, but before we continue to go forward, I want to start going backward, because you have such an amazing story. How long were you incarcerated?
I was incarcerated for 2.5 decades.
So for y'all, how many years is that? Because that's like somebody telling me my baby 46 months old.
25 years.
I just wanted to make sure. So yeah, that's a long time. And one of the things that we deal with, what city are you from?
From the city of Portsmouth.
And I say that because Portsmouth is the most dangerous city in Virginia. Darrell is one of the people that has a lot of credibility with a lot of the young people, not only because of the things that he's gone through, but how he's been able to change his life. So if we could start back from the beginning, in the beginning, how old were you the first time you were incarcerated?
The first time that I was, let's take it back farther than that. Okay. The first time that I had a run-in with the police department was, I was staying out of Academy Park. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and there was a shooting going on, and they stopped us, and they was like, "What's going on?" We running from the shooting, But they told me that you need to tell us who was doing it and this and that. And I'm like, we don't know, we just running. And I was put in the back of the police car and took to the house. And from that point, actually, now I'm going through what I've been through and understanding that immediately gave me a disregard to how I didn't respect law enforcement, because I was placed like I was being detained for something that I really didn't know. So they started my sense of distrust with them.
So let me stop you right there. So you were basically questioned by the police as a kid without your parents being present. So right off the bat, your first encounter with a police officer was a violation of your rights.
Exactly.
And I want to stop you right there, because I think that you're the perfect person, because I said before, Darrell and I grew up together and we grew up in the same neighborhood. We've had similar and different experiences. I've never had that experience as a kid, even though we were in the same neighborhood. But
I
it
made
goes.
you in the house, Keisha.
Well, you did, but we're not going to talk about that right now. He did. That is one of the reasons why Black Americans have a distrust of police officers, because a lot of times, even when we aren't in trouble, our initial interaction is a violation of our rights in some type of way. It's a detainment in some type of way. And being a Black man in America, that's different, because one thing I know that we did share is seeing our friends chased by police officers, shot by police officers, people getting murdered right in front of us. So being told to trust the police, and then right off the bat, your first experience is that. What happened after that?
After that, at the age of 12, I was still out London Oaks. Then I was
I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. How did you feel when that happened?
humiliated. Mm-hmm. I felt humiliated.
And how old were you again?
8 or 9.
And I want to make that clear, because an 8 or 9-year-old child's interaction with a police officer doesn't make them feel safe. It doesn't make them feel protected. It made them feel humiliated. And that's important. Go ahead.
And after that, it was 12. I was joyriding in a stolen car, which I didn't know at that age that the car was stolen. Mm-hmm. The guy that was riding around, like, come on, let's take a ride. We was riding around and got in a police chase. I got in a stolen car. Then I found out later it was a stolen car, and I was apprehended from that also. And that was my first encounter with going to Tidewater Detention Home. And after that,
so hold on. How long were you at Tidewater Detention Home?
Like 9 months.
Okay. So as a 12-year-old, you're in and I'm going somewhere with this, because a lot of times the things that us activists talk about is the disparity in treatment, and when it comes to us creating crimes and other people committing crimes. So at the age of 12 years old, you were in a car joyriding. You did not steal the car. You were unaware that the car was stolen. Your friend said, "Come ride with me." And at 12 years old, 9 months of your life was taken from you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then did that, came home, and a little while after that, my father went blind. And as most people was raised by their mother, I was raised by my father since the age of 2. So my father went blind due to diabetes, and when he went blind, there's a lot of life-changing events that I've learned now that it dealt with me mentally, that transcended the way that I looked at things, thought about things, or cared about things. So after that, I started selling drugs, doing different things like that. By then, I'm out London Oaks, and I'm selling drugs, I'm doing different things like that, because in my view, is like my father isn't able to provide for me anymore like he was. So it became, in my mind at that time, the drugs, okay, they bad, but I need survival. Mm-hmm. So as most people ask me, why did I get in the drug? At first, when I got in the drug game, it wasn't to make money, it was to sustain a living. Mm-hmm. And got in trouble for that.
How old were you?
Probably about 14. Mm-hmm. Got in trouble for that. Then I was going to school, things was happening with that. Then I was I was given a gun charge out Church of the North. I was going to a party out there. I did have some drugs on me, but I had threw the drugs, but they found a gun, ended up finding the gun, giving me the drug and gun charge, and incarcerated me for that. And from there...
Hold on. So the gun wasn't yours?
No.
And the drugs were, though?
The drugs were.
Okay. So how did that work? Because I'm always interested in understanding how and thank you for your transparency, because so many, specifically black men, they often add on charges. They want to close a case, they want to do something, and charges get added on. So how did that come about? They just told you it was yours?
They found the gun and the drugs was close by, so I guess they was killing two birds with one stone. Mm-hmm. But long story short, I ended up getting locked up for that. I ended up going to juvenile, stayed in there to the age of 20, came home. And when I came home at 20, I was placed in a halfway house for a while. Come out the halfway house, I was, had got my own apartment for a minute. And then my father was still down. Different things was going on. A car got messed up, so I'm applying, trying to do different things, but it was like, at the age of 20, I had just came home, and the job I was working wasn't even enough to pay the bills of the house I was living in. Because I had came home to a transition house, which I was there about 7 or 8 months, so I had accumulated a nice little bit of money. So to get the apartment, that was good, I had that, but the job I was working, with not being able, giving all of that guidance in regards to money management, which is something I tell a lot of people about now. I had 7 months to save this, but I wasn't looking at, okay, when I get here, is this enough to do all of these bills? But I never fought nobody for it. I fought myself for not being able to understand it, but that's why I push now for people to be able to understand budgeting and to be able to put people in a position to understand and let them know that before you take this on is all of this criteria. Can you take care of this with what you have? Because actually my savings was depleted because I wasn't making enough to support what I had. So went from that, so I started back going in the street again because of, once again, how I'm gonna pay my bills. I don't want to do this. I had came home, the girl I was dealing with had got pregnant, son on the way. So once again, survival. What am I going to do? So that ended up happening. I went from that to doing robberies to selling drugs, doing robberies. That's what I was doing. And I ended up getting into a situation, caught a robbery charge, caught a gun charge, caught a breaking and entering charge, caught a attempt grand larceny, where I had a whole lot of charges. Like I said, one thing about me, I'm transparent. I had those charges. Then I was incarcerated and I left and I did 25 years. Came home 2019. And upon my time of imprisonment, like I tell people, when I first went in, I went in with the objective or insight of I didn't care. Because prior to going to prison, I was facing several life sentences. So that right there had already transcended my mind to I don't care. And then for going in, I was given a lot of time, and it was like, how am I gonna do it? So it was like I really didn't care. So I went in, I did the fighting, I sold the drugs, I got stabbed, I did every single thing inside of there because it was like every single day was a war. It was like, I tell people all the time that people relate to people going into combat in the military, but I tell people take that small scale and put it in regards to people who really don't care. It's a war every single day. I seen people hang themselves, I seen people rape, I seen people murdered, I seen every single thing that you can see under the sun. And not understanding that watching those things and doing those things once again was psychologically changing me into more of an animal, because when I use the word animal, I use somebody who's just reacts off emotion, like just don't care, just go in, because in there it was a situation to be killed or be killed. You got people, I was in a cell, forgot one time they had 7 life sentences in some years, and that was when I had 8 years to come home. So every morning, some morning he wake up happy, some morning he wake up and say, man, I'm gonna kill somebody today. So those type of things psychologically put you in the mindset of becoming a warrior. But through the grace of the higher power, about 4 years, 2013 was the first initial change in how I started to think, because my grandmother passed away. I was just caught with a cell phone on an institution, and I was transferred to another maximum security prison, and I was at Sussex. And I get a call to come to the council office, and I found out that my grandmother had passed away. My grandmother is the most monumental figure in my life. And she used to always tell me I was gonna make it out. So when she passed away in 2013, I went crazy, I went ballistics. I ended up catching Bell palsy, which was side of my body was paralyzed probably about 7 months. She said it's due to stress. But I started to say I have to do something different. But what it was I didn't know what to do different. I know I had that feeling inside of me that it was something that I needed to do, but I just ain't know what I needed to do.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna stop you right there. I want to stop you right there because I know that you're about to go somewhere, but it's something that your grandmother used to always say to you. What was it that your grandmother used to always tell you?
It's gonna be all right.
I'm talking about, it was something she used to tell you about hope?
Oh yeah, hope. Like, that's one of my biggest things. You got hope. Every level, one thing about Keisha, she knows me. She say, you got hope. And when you, I it's big on that, because that's something that I'm big on now, because I understand as long as you hold on to hope, you got something to fight for.
Right. And I wanted you to talk about that because I knew you were going to get to the part about your grandmother. Now, all the way up into that part, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of, because you still had her, you knew what she taught you, but your mind, you were really in survival mode every day. Is that a true statement?
Exactly.
Okay. And so when you got the call from about your grandmother, can you explain to them that even though you were living in survival mode, you had carried yourself in such a way that the people in prison knew about your relationship with your grandmother and they didn't even want to tell you?
Exactly. When they came, they called me. First they beat me in because they didn't have an intercom. They beat me in and said the counselor want to speak to you. So I was like, what's going on? They was like, I don't know, just go downstairs, you need to talk to the counselor. So I'm like, what I need to talk to the counselor for? Because me, most times that you need to talk to the counselor, something bad going on, or you did something or something like that. Spoke to the counselor so many times, and my next thing was I was on the transfer to somewhere else. But when I come on the stairs and to come down, I saw her looking at me. And I was like, what's up? And she said, she just looked, I said, something happened to my grandma. And she just get quiet. I don't know what it was, but at that moment, I just remember I used to speak to my grandma every Sunday. And one thing my grandma used to always say to me was, I'll talk to you later, I'll talk to you later. But mind you, there's so much going on in prison, conversations, all that I ain't paying attention, but I talked to my grandmother that Sunday. And she would never tell me something was going on. People was telling me that this is going on, that's going on. So it got to the point, the last about 3 years I was in prison, I asked my grandma 2 questions. You been to Walmart, you been to church? If she tell me she ain't been to Walmart or she ain't been to church, something the matter with my grandmama. So, and we are like, oh, you been to, nah, I was a little tired today and all this stuff. So in my mind, I know, because my grandma not gonna miss Morning Star Baptist Church or Walmart for nothing in the world. But when I was coming down, I thought about it and it just clicked in my head that Sunday, when I got off the phone, she said, bye. And it just clicked in my head, because every other time was, I'll talk to you later. My grandma hated goodbye. If you tell my grandma goodbye, she had a problem with it. It ain't no goodbye, I'll talk to you later. Or if I'm on the street, goodbye, no, I'll see you later. So it just vividly hit me. So when I'm coming down the stairs, I'm like, what's going on? She was like, I lost it. because my grandfather was sick prior to that. When my grandfather was in the hospital, and no, my grandmother was in the hospital. She was sick, so I knew she was sick, but she had just came home. So when they said it, I'm like, But since that day, like I said, it was like I had that itch in me, but I just ain't know what it was. And I ran into, it's ironic that I say this, but I ran into one of the greatest men I met in my life, besides my father, which was a white man. His name is Coach Mike Donovan. He was previously incarcerated himself, but he was a counselor at St. Bride, and now he runs the prison fellowship program. But I was in segregation when he came to me and said, I need you. You got something inside of you. You can influence, change, and empower people because I see your leadership ability. And that was in 2015. So it was a 2-year span where I knew what I wanted to do, or I knew what, but I just needed that extra push for somebody to help me bring what I know is inside of me, to bring it to light.
We gonna close that out right now, and that is the end of part 1 of my conversation with Darrell Redmond. We'll be right back with part 2 next week, and we're going to get into more about his activism. Thank you for tuning into The Onyx Effect.